Judy Blume has sold hundreds of millions of books, and she didn't start writing until she was in her 40s and she was a housewife, and it's created this whole other world for her. And you think everybody starts early, everybody knows what they're doing, everybody has a consistent practice. They check the date off the calendar like Jerry Seinfeld did every day. Did I write a joke today? Did I write a joke today? And that's not necessarily going to be the way that it works for you. And the more you get to know that different people have different processes, and you can take little bits where you're like, ooh, I want to try that. That sounds good to me.
Welcome to the Coast Podcast. I'm Emily, a virtual assistant agency owner who left Amazon in 2019 to build my dream.
And I'm Whitney, a freelance writer and communications consultant who never felt at home in a cube farm.
We wanted to learn from people who paved their own ways like we did. So we created this podcast to talk to others who are brave enough to pick a different path. Creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing their careers and their lives their way.
Join us as we make new friends, get inspired, and show you beautiful paths less traveled.
Not every road leads to the coast, but the ones that do come with a great view.
Hello, welcome to another episode of The Coast. It's me, Emily, and I've been told that we sometimes sound similar on the pod, so it's Emily Gibbon here. This is me. And if you haven't heard yet, I'm writing a book. It is a memoir. It is about my childhood, and, it's going to tie into, how I became an entrepreneur and all of this lessons that I'm learning in adulthood. And it's been I'm in a little bit of a failure to launch mode with it, I think, right? Is that what you'd call it?
Failure I don't think you've failed at all. You've done an outline.
Thank you.
With Rachel.
Yes. Last week, we interviewed my ghostwriter for my proposal, and she built the proposal, which made it really tangible for me, and we've got an outline down. But there's a lot of resistance around writing for me, especially about this topic, because it's so sad and triggering for me in some ways. So I just wanted to ask about, Whitney's the expert writer, and just kind of asked about your experience with writing and tips that you have for consistency and where to get started, and, maybe even walk me through the process of publishing a book. You self-published, right?
Yeah, self-published
through your publishing house.
So
it's it's like a different.
Yeah, it's a little less self-published, but also still. It's like how a poodle is a dog, but a dog isn't necessarily a poodle. It's like that.
Okay. So I guess start from, how the hell do you write a book?
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've been talking with people about a lot lately. And by the time this comes out, it'll already have happened, but we are doing a lunch and learn that I invited Emily to at Workhorse about this, where Star, who's a member of Workhorse, she helps people write books that are kind of business focused to move their businesses forward, that they use as marketing tools. And a lot of people get so stuck in their own ways. And we're actually building a whole series of workshops around this, like the brainstorming phase, breaking it all, like you were saying to me, everything broken out into little tidbits. Cause everyone's at a different place. You could say, I have a book in me, but it could be this, this, or this. And then you work with somebody like Star to break down, okay, what makes the most sense? What's available on the market? Where are some gaps? And she would sit with you and really get to the heart of that. Then there are people like you who already have the idea and you've already been exploring it and you've been in research mode. And something where I thrive on Threads, people say a lot about writing is thinking is writing. We beat ourselves up about I didn't get 1,000 words today or whatever some arbitrary rule is. I didn't do my 5 reels this week to grow on Instagram. I didn't write my 1,000 words to check that box off the calendar, but thinking about writing helps too. And there's a writer's coach who her name is Becca. I think it's Syme. She's awesome because she's written a bunch of self-published books with a co-author about different types of writers. So for me, what was really freeing in seeing some of her stuff is the series is called Dear Writer blank. And there's one that I'm going to get, or I have on my wish list, called Dear Writer, Maybe You're Intuitive, meaning some people need the proposal. Some people just can write, and you need to create room for each of those things. For me, when I wrote like A Wave Called Grief it doesn't really count because it was like this channeled message basically. But the novel that I've been working on for 10 years, which is similar, it's like wish fulfillment of what my memoir would be if it were what I wanted it to be in this experience with my dad. So like these characters taking care of this person who's recently graduated from college, and then she gets smacked in the face with you're about to start your life while your parents' life is ending. And so what it has been through that process, and equally traumatic because I'm having to relive a lot of stuff, but in a way of these characters, they have to trust me and come through me. That's where like the intuitive part comes in. And also, I had to create a ritual for myself to keep up with it. So even if it was a few words, a sentence, I devoted myself for about 2 years to writing every day. And that's when I started basically doing 5 a.m. club type stuff of getting up in the morning. And it didn't have to be perfect. It didn't have to be anything. It just had to be words on the page. And that's something that Star recommends too, of it can look different ways for you. It can be an hour. It could be 20-minute increments where you set a timer and all you do is like type, even if it's a word, and then you reward yourself and you build up kind of like that habit stacking type thing. But part of the process in writing is finding what works for you and also being open to that changing. Like for me right now, I had to get that other book out to show myself that it's possible for me because this one felt too big. So I had to do it in steps. And I think that's more of a subconscious thing that I'm realizing now because I'd been working on that book forever. And then this one came in the publishing house and I had to create the container for myself to feel safe. And now I can go back to that other one that I would say is 2/3 of the way done. And I need to add a few more things to it, edit it again. That's another thing that I did. So not always in order. Don't listen to what everybody else does if it doesn't work for you. You can try it and some things will work for you and then you abandon them. But the most important thing is coming up with some kind of little ritual for yourself to get brave enough. And in your case too, that could be spending a week talking to Rachel. It doesn't necessarily have to be
And that's
you writing it.
yeah, and that's something that I'm kind of like reframing in my head is I don't have to write a book. I just have to tell my story
Yes.
and it will
Yes.
become a book. So
Yes.
even if I sit down and literally Zoom record myself talking about a story from my childhood, that counts. Like I
Yeah.
can save it in a folder and then, and then I can do a voice to text, right? That's literally, it's transcribing what I did. And that's like
Mhm.
writing my yeah, there's so many different ways to do it.
I would explore what that looks like to you too, because it could be, you devote 30 days to voice noting and doing one voice note a
And
day
I
for
think that
30
could be
days.
incredible.
Yeah.
And it's easier for me. And then there's like lots of softwares that will take your words and put them into, and then you send it to an editor, right?
Mhm.
And then you're like, Rachel, these are the big chunks. Make it flow and make it a book. And that's
Yeah.
something that can happen. So,
And as a person who works with people, like I would love that process. So I would think too, like, for a ghostwriter or somebody who's helping you through that, they would need to hone in on what makes sense for your process. And it could be a combination. It could be a hybrid of there's some things I've written, here's all my notes, here's all my CPS files, and here's 10 bazillion. And then they fill in the gaps. Like I say, the word puzzle, they'll put it all together and they will have to meet you where you are. Because if, let's say you have your ritual, I do something writing related every day for 20 minutes or something related to telling my story is probably a better way to say it. What feels right to you that day? What do you have the capacity for? Is it a 1-minute voice note of, oh my gosh, I forgot this detail from yesterday? That's super helpful for somebody like me. If I'm writing the book, I don't necessarily need your your Word documents, if I have the information from you in the way that you say it in order to get this done. And that's part of their work too. And I wonder if they do it. I'd love to learn like what their process is with their clients. Because all I know is like the brief stuff that I've learned where they like fly in for the weekend and talk to you for 3 days. And something else I learned from like one of my spiritual advisors is I'm an auditory person and I didn't know that about myself. So I'm doing a lot of podcast interviews right now, pitching myself to podcasts so that I can hear myself back. Because sometimes we don't know what we believe or what we experienced until we are asked a question and we say it out loud and we hear ourselves say that. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I thought that.
Right. Or you don't know how experienced and expertise you sound. Like I know that I'm going to go back to our last mini episode and be like, damn, I really sound like I know what I'm talking about, but
Right.
because I do. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And for me too, so in my client work, like writing creative work and writing client work is different for me, but there are some through lines that are the same where I've learned about myself and my process that it's important to get it out of my mind and body, whatever that looks like, which is why I have notebooks all over my house to get those thoughts out of my brain. And then even let's say I'm writing a website or a blog post for a client, I get all of that out. And it's usually pretty good because I'm so practiced, like that first round. And then I walk away. And usually, if I have the time, I walk away for a few days before I come back so that my brain is working on other things. And then I come back and do a full edit, which is what I did to my book. Cause I was like, this just feels like I'm typing forever. Does it even make sense? And so even before it was done, I edited it to see what are you saying, where are the gaps to fill versus some people say write all the way through. Not all of us are like that. So my biggest advice is to not box yourself into some arbitrary way. It is important for you to create some sort of ritual and guardrail for you. I love the idea of how do I tell my story today and give yourself that 20 minutes or whatever you can, and then figure out what feels right within that. And it doesn't have to be the same every day as long as you're devoting yourself to the project because the project wants to come through you. It wants to be loved by you. And it's your job to figure out how you want to love it every day.
yeah. And I think part of the issue is like, you do think, okay, well, first I have to do this, and then I have to do chapter one, and then I have to do chapter two, and then I have to like, this is a process and I need a full manuscript, and then this, and then this. It's no, this is like more creative than that. And you
Mm-hmm.
can get creative and just say, oh, you're recording, like, this is a memory from when I was 4,
Mm-hmm.
and blah, 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 blah.
And who knows what your like whole format's going to be too. Like Jamie Ford, who wrote The Hotel at the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. He grew up in Seattle. He lives in Montana now. He was the keynote speaker at a writers conference I went to in Edmonds last year. And he was talking about this book that he just finished that was about like a family through multiple generations and how he had to write each person's story and then put them together like this quilt. There's a lot of stories like that where you're over in one character's world and then you have to figure out how to put it all together. So you're like, there are probably very few writers who necessarily write all the way through,
Right.
or you would think there are more when really a lot of them are dipping in and out, walking in the woods, like even Rachel said, to think about things. Toni Morrison, she spent a ton of time out in nature just thinking and then deciding whether she wanted to put that in books. So everybody has their process. And I would encourage you that way too. What are some rituals that might not seem like writing, but support your writing of, for me, I don't stay up late if I can avoid it. I go to bed, I take care of my body because I can't write if I'm not in bed early and getting enough sleep. And cats are up at fucking 4 a.m. So for me, part of that ritual is, do I need to take a bath tonight? Do I need a shower? Like braid my hair and take care of myself so that I can be ready to get up early and put some words on the page or read some words or take a walk to clear my brain. If it supports your writing, then it counts.
Yeah, I agree. For me, that was like going through the CPS files too, highlighting stuff, and I was like, this sucks.
Yeah. And it's all part of even me this weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend. I was gone and I thought I would work more. And I have to keep reminding myself thinking is working. Like it's not just about responding to emails because my brain will get completely fried if I don't take little breaks away from the screen. But I beat myself up about what equals work. And that's the same as writing. What equals writing? Or I just like to go back to that whole reframing of what equals telling my story, which is such a cool way to think about it because the world is so different now. Like it's not just sitting in front of your typewriter or with like your feathered pen to write your memoir. It's what can I do today to support this project in helping people who need to hear this story get it to them. And I love that for you. I love this reframe because I really think it's going to move your project forward.
I think so
Ins-
too.
Instead of judging yourself so much. I mean, I do it too. And it takes time. Like you can't just be like, I'm gonna write today and it's gonna be easy and it's gonna be the same every day. Some people it's like that. Some people can eat the same lunch every day. I've met
Yeah.
people like that. I can't do that.
EJ's like that.
Yeah, my son's like that. So that would
Even,
work for him, you know? Like you can
yeah,
apply that to, okay, I'm probably a person who needs this kind of consistent thing. For me, I need some flavor.
yeah. And I think just realizing like how, just like what I said in the last episode, like people do it their way and I can do it my way, and both ways are correct and right.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
And the more people talk about that too, like the more you share your process as kind of like an accountability practice for yourself, the more you'll give yourself permission to continue to experiment and to learn as you go.
mhm.
So you can't expect to just be like, and now I am an expert writer when I have not written anything.
Right.
And
And
learning from others too.
I don't need to be an expert writer though. I just want my story shared, you know?
Something that's helped me a lot, like in my money club, we talked about expanders, and that's kind of a common term now. But like looking at people who I admire and going on YouTube and watching videos of them talking about their process or reading the acknowledgments in the back of their books to see how they put this thing together has been really helpful for me because it shows like Judy Blume has sold hundreds of millions of books and she didn't start writing until she was in her 40s and she was a housewife, and it's created this whole other world for her. And you think everybody starts early, everybody knows what they're doing, everybody has a consistent practice. They check the date off the calendar like Jerry Seinfeld did every day. Did I write a joke today? Did I write a joke today? And that's not necessarily going to be the way that it works for you. And the more you get to know that different people have different processes and you can take little bits where you're like, ooh, I want to try that. That sounds good to me. And then just add it into my story time part of your day every day, even if it's 5 minutes thinking about an anecdote that you would want to have as a flashback.
Yep. It's all going to be good. And the thing is, I think about the same things over and over and over. That needs to go in the book. That needs to go in the book. But if I just say them and get them, okay, I already know that's going to be in it. It's
Yeah,
already documented, right? So,
I love that. I wonder too if there's, because voice notes can get kind of clogged in that app, if there's some transcription app, I'm sure there is, that you can just, it immediately goes to Rachel.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's something like that exists. It has to.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Voxer or what. I mean, if you're already using that for your coaching,
Yeah.
could be a cool
Yeah.
platform, but, or maybe you can voice note into Google Docs. I don't
You
know.
can. Actually, Richard was showing me that on a Mac, you can open up whatever their word processing is. What
Mm,
is it? And do voice and then dictate your whole book.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how do people with dyslexia, ADHD, I mean, how do they do that?
Yep.
Everyone has their process. And even him, he's published
Yep.
7 books.
Yeah.
Well, look at that.
So, yeah, I think that'll be great, great for me. Because even though I do like that, I like the writing aspect. I like to write, but it just feels too big and maybe
That first draft might be too big, and then you can be really key in the editing phase,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. Exactly.
Again, it's what's your relationship with this? How can you make it easy on yourself and put yourself first in this process? And it could be like, oh my gosh, this just channeled through me today, and I'm going to ship it off to Rachel. I love that there's this person who can really like hug and mold your story.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I also have to like be like, okay, it's going to cost some money.
Yeah.
It's going to cost money to do this. But if that is what it takes and I get to help a lot of people and, you know, be a bestseller, then awesome.
Yeah.
Because I just know it's going to be really well received. It's going to be big. And I know that. And I'm
If
excited
you're
for that.
looking for some support in that process, a book that I'm listening to right now is Jeanette McCurdy's. Have you heard of her? The I'm Glad My Mom
I'm glad
Died?
my mom died. Yeah. I feel like that one's going to be triggering for me.
I had no idea what it was about. I just was like, this keeps popping up for me, so I'm going to listen to it. But I didn't even know she was a child actress, so I'm learning.
My therapist recommended it, and I bought it. It's on my Audible. Right now, what's interesting is I'm listening to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and that process is about a ghostwriter.
Oh,
that book's
okay.
about So
I knew that. I got her book, and it was so humongous. And of course, I got it the large print.
I'm
so
audio.
It was like 1,000 pages.
I'm audio booking, but yeah, it's about she's interviewing this person, and I was like, wait, this might be a sign. Okay, good to thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna start like getting serious about it, but slowly because I've got a lot going on in my life right now.
Yeah. Today, as of this recording, it's May 28th, 2024, and I will make a mental note to check in around this time next year just to see, you know, I'll be along for the whole ride, but just to see, okay, what steps have we both made toward these goals?
Right. I'm excited for us. We're flourishing.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm almost done with my rwestpress.com website. You can go to it now. It's so beautiful. And I will be offering services there for these types of things, conversations around the process. We didn't really get into the publishing process. I'll make like a series of TikToks about it, so you can find me there.
But, oh my gosh, it's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I'm here to get published, edited, or advice. This is so cool.
Yeah, if you want advice about any of the book stuff, come with your questions already. I'm not just going to sit here and talk to you unless it's a productive thing and you have like even just a general question. But that's where I'll be if you want to talk to me more about book related stuff and even publishing your stories. So it'll be a fun way for me to continue the book conversation with lots of people because I know so many people have stories in them that deserve to be told.
I'm so excited for you. And I feel really lucky, and not even just lucky, I'm glad we have each other through our expansion processes because this is good. It's a good relationship.
Yes, it's amazing and so good to have each other and also uncomfortable.
Yeah. We push each other.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. My dog's barking at another dog, so I'm going to go take care of that. But bye, podcast people.
Yeah, see you next week for another interview.